Here's a nice little Christmas project. It's napkin rings, and if you didn't want to make the napkin rings, you could always use these shapes, the holly, and this is my version of mistletoe, to create as decorations for the tree or decorations for the house. These are made out of aluminium wire, and I've also used some 0.4 silver plated copper wire for the finer sort of berry bits and the binding. And I've got some gorgeous beads. These are from Charmer's Gems. We've got prehnite and also some moonstone. So to get started, you need your basic tools. I would say chain nose, round nose, and cutters, and a hammer and a block. And I'm going to start off with some 0.6 aluminium. It's soft, bare aluminium wire for the framework. To create the actual wire frame or structure of the holly leaf, I use my fingers a lot. I mean, you could use molding tools, but I'm just going to start bending the wire a little bit to create the outside sort of spiky frame. So I'm bending it around my chain nose, and then I'm sort of squishing the ends together to make it a little bit more of a point, and then creating the next little spiky side part of my leaf. And if you didn't want to use your finger for curving it, you could always use a pair of Bailmaker pliers. That way you could create the curves within the pliers, and if that helps. So we're going to do 3 along the side like so, and then for the base part of the leaf we're going to create a longer curve, then bend it up, and then just again squeeze the tip just to make it a little bit more spiky, and then you're going to keep that longer bit again and then come up and follow the same side, same as the other side. So, and really you don't want to be too perfect about this, because a leaf is quite organic, so don't worry if it's not completely symmetrical. Mine certainly isn't, but you can see there's a sort of start of the leaf, and now I want to leave a longer area for my stem there. So I'm just going to cut it off, leaving sort of 2 inches or so, and then just spread it out. Sometimes it's too wide, so you want to bring it in, and the shorter end here is going to wrap over the longer piece. So when you decide where it wants to cross over, hold that area so that it doesn't move around, and just slowly bring the wire around, and that will secure it at the top end there. Now the fun begins, because we're going to do some hammering, and the reason for hammering it means it will become tough, and it will also flatten the wire out. So you can see the hammering is flattening it out nicely, and it's also toughening the frame so that it doesn't move around. It's much stronger. So you will do that to 2 of the leaves, and then we're going to secure some wire into the center. Now that we've hammered the frame, we're going to add the beads to the center of the leaf. I'm going to use 0.4 thin bare silver plated copper wire. Don't cut it off the spool yet. You can either bind it to the tip or bind it to the top. I'm going to start at the tip, and you're just going to secure it into that little tip end there. Just do it twice, that should be enough. You don't want it to be bulky. And then remove the excess and just make sure that's nice and secure, and then measure enough going through the center, and then probably an inch extra for securing at the other end, just to finish off. So now, because there's such a narrow channel in that bit of the leaf, I'm going to use a few of these very small seed beads, just little crystals, to fill, because I won't be able to put thicker beads in that gap. So just fit as many as need to get me out of that channel. I think one more and then we're fine. And then I can add these beautiful, I've got prehnite and also some moonstone beads from Charmer's Gems, and you can use any semi-precious chips that you've got to hand that match your festive colours this year for your table, or go with your tablecloth, whatever you've got to hand. So I'm just going to mix these colours together, I think, make something looking quite wintry. And as you can see, I'm just filling up that gap through the center of this leaf until you've got enough beads to take you right to the top. And if there's just not enough, or one more larger bead, put a tiny seed bead, and then all you're going to do is wrap it to secure at the top end, and make sure there's no spiky ends. So there's your leaf center, and you'll make 2 of those, and then we've got to make the napkin ring itself. So I've used, for the napkin ring, I've just used something to wrap around, and I don't know how thick your material napkins or your paper napkins is going to be, but this worked perfectly for me. I think it was 30 centimeters and what's that, 1 1/4 inches, and I'm using the 1.6 mil wire again. So to create the actual ring part, just wrap about 4 times around. What I'm aiming to do is have 2 full circles there and a cut end, and then I'm going to cut that off there. That, I mean, you could make them thicker by wrapping and wrapping, but I didn't want to use masses of wire, so that to me worked perfectly to slide my napkin through. And then I'm going to create a circle at one end. One of the circles is going to have the decoration suspended, and the other one is just going to be decorative. So I'm going to make another circle on that side, and this one is the decorative one. So I'm going to spiral it around until it sits just above the first one. And as we come around and around, I'm trying not to misshape the circle. Now, just to check I haven't misshaped it by holding it, I'm just going to tighten it again around my circular mandrel. And you could use anything, a little bottle, a pill box, anything you want to create that circle. But that's in essence all you need to do for your napkin ring. If it doesn't feel strong enough, you can always hammer it around whatever you've created around that, will just strengthen it. But that should be fine for a napkin. So the next thing to do is to create the berries. These are made out of the 0.4 fine silver plated wire, and all I do for those is cut about 1 meter or an arm's length or so. And I suppose it depends how big you want the berries to be. The more you cut, the larger, the less, and so forth. And because the ends of the wire are a bit spiky, just turn them around like that so that you've got little rounded ends. Because what we're going to do is scrunch the wire up in no particular fashion, just as if you're going to throw away paper and scrunch it up. It's exactly the same. You're going to bring it all into a sort of ball, and then literally roll it into the palm of your hands and mold it into a small little ball. And you'd be amazed how quickly the wire work hardens itself into this tight little well, we're going to call it a wire berry for this particular project, and we'll need 2 of those for the finished napkin ring. As you can see, they are going to be suspended off this bit here. So the next bit is to create the 2 leaves, put the 2 leaves together. To assemble the whole napkin ring, you want to take the 2 leaves that you've threaded and attach one to the other. So if one has a longer stem, you can sort of hold that one and wrap the other one around it. And you want to keep them roughly together, because you don't want these napkin rings to be so big that they take up too much table space. So I'm curling the wire or wrapping the wire around the other stem until it's fixed there. And then this bit will be the linking system to the napkin ring. So I'm just going to, you can either just have one circle, or if you have wire left over, you can carry on spiraling it around, which means it's a little bit more decorative. So those are your leaves together, and then to attach those berries, cut about 6 inches or so of the 0.4 fine wire and thread them through one of the berries. Bring the 2 wires together and cross them over and twist so that it's attached. You don't want to twist too much, just a tiny little stem, and then whichever wire is the longest. On this one it's, I think, equidistant, but anyway, if you do have a longer one, go on the longer one, and do the same thing. Bring the 2 wires together, hold it where it was last twisted, and twist that wire ball as well, and then bring those 2 wires together and twist again to create a stem, a little twisted stem. So it's like making a branch. When we made the trees, if you remember, on one of the projects, we created twisted branches. That was a very similar sort of thing. So now you have that stalk like that, which can be eventually put on to this. So to attach the 2, you can either make a jump ring or attach it direct there. I'm just going to make a ring because it's quite nice to know how to make a ring or a jump ring, and that's by just spiraling around something cylindrical, around those pliers or bail making pliers. Cut that off so you've got a little bit of a coil, and then cut through one by one of the coil, and that gives you the links you need to connect. And you'd open those sideways, link them in, attach that into the holly leaf top, and then just close that up. And then these berries can go into that top link, and you just, I mean, there's no method to this really. I'm just going to wrap it around. This shouldn't move. This is just going to be wrapped around that top link of the napkin ring a couple of times so that it is secure. And if you want to use the excess wire, you can wrap it around the base of the berries, or you can cut it off at that point. But really, that is all you have to do to create these lovely holly napkin rings. And if you want to make a similar sort of effect, you can see with mistletoe, this is the one I did for the mistletoe, which is actually simpler in a way, and that is just to show you very quickly. I won't do all the threading, but these long loops, again, they could be wrapped around a pencil, or they could be, you see, you're just creating a loop like that, and then wrapping that. So you can make that as long as you want. Wrap that away and around the the top, and then without cutting the wire off the spool here, make a link, and then the second one out of the same piece of wire. It makes it much sturdier than if you have two long separate loops. And then that one gets wrapped and secured at the top. And you'll go through the process of also hammering the frame and attaching the beads, making the same napkin ring, and you could use beads instead of the wire. You can see them here, beads instead of the wire, the berries, to create these lovely Christmassy napkin rings. So I hope you have fun making these for your Christmas table.